I think we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's 7:31. And Dan, can you just confirm that you can hear us since we can't see you on the screen there?
Gotcha. Hear you 100%.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty. We'll start with citizen comments. Natalie, do you have anything in advance? No. Okay. Give it a second here. Let me look at the participant list. I don't see anybody.
You want me to, oh, you said Matt was coming. I was gonna say, if you want me to give him a call or what?
Debbie, he's here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see him.
I do.
I'm here.
Oh, I had to change the screen. Okay.
Are you on a phone, Debbie, or the computer?
No, I'm on the computer, but I guess I had to put it on everybody. It just had whoever was talking big in the middle, and then, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Gallery view will show
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the max is for what they fit on the screen, but I see everybody at once. Okay. I don't think we've got any citizen comments.
Is that Charlie? Is that Charlie? Like the beard.
Yeah, I'm applying for some Santa Claus jobs for the winter, but they're telling me I have to lose weight.
You need the beard this early? Oh, it's a pandemic beard, right? A lot of people have them.
Yeah.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we've got elect board officers for 2021/2022. And just a clarification real fast, Brian, is it correct that regardless of whether there's an election, we reassess officers yearly in May? Is that the way it's done?
Yes, it's part of our ordinance, and I believe it's state statute.
But we didn't do it last year, did we?
You know what? I don't know. We should have if we didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so going forward, it is yearly in the May meeting.
Martha, I think you've been on the board 1 year, not 2. I've been on the board 2 years, right? No, right. What?
Debbie, you were elected the last aldermanic cycle
Right.
4 years
2
ago.
years ago.
No, yeah, 4 years ago. I have 2 years left.
You guys and me and Martha, Dan were elected at the same time 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And
You okay.
Martha and you have been president and vice president for the last 2 years.
So we did not have an election last year.
I don't remember doing one.
I don't remember.
Martha, do you remember an election last May?
An election? Are you talking about when we elect officers within our board? Yeah, I do not recall doing that. I don't think we did it last year.
You know, it was the pandemic and we switched to the video.
Oh, yeah, it could have been, yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I don't know what mechanisms we have, if any, for like automatic calendar reminders of things like that. I mean, obviously we don't forget about the budget and the things we have to do with that, but this one seems like an easy one to forget if there isn't at least one person on top of it. So I don't know if we can maybe just set some sort of a reminder yearly. I didn't know. I don't remember that from my first 4 years on the board. I don't remember that at all. I don't remember electing officials at any points, but we definitely could have been doing it yearly and I just don't recall. Anyway, okay. So, given that I have no memory of ever having been through this process, Brian, can you remind us how we do this, or Charlie, either one of you?
Sure. In the past, board members would ask board president or make a motion, ask the board president questions. One would be, how do you feel about the past year? Are you interested in serving another term and that kind of thing? And eventually somebody will make a motion.
Okay. Debbie, you're on mute if you were talking. You know, Debbie, I can't hear her. Can you guys hear her?
No.
So it's weird because it says you're off mute now. I don't see the little microphone.
I don't know.
Now I
Maybe-
can hear you.
There you go.
That's weird. Okay, so I make a motion for Martha Gaines for president.
Is that how a nomination would work, Brian? That it's just a motion like any other motion?
Yes,
Okay. And should we nominate, vote on that motion and then move to the,
have discussion.
okay.
Did it get seconded?
Not yet. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Does anyone, first of all, I accept, and I was under the impression that I had been president for a year, but it is in fact 2 years so far. Time flies. And I would definitely like to do it for another year. So does anyone else have any discussion or questions or issues? Okay. Then as always, Julie, if you wouldn't mind roll calling the vote for that motion, please.
Several years, worked myself.
Ron?
Yes.
Your conversion team, automating
Point.
all their offices.
This is Coin. No.
Martha Gaines
Oh,
on that?
yeah, Julie, I think I'm supposed to be called the last from now on in the roll call votes.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Mitchell?
Yes.
And Mick, do you pronounce your last name Morel or Morel?
The first one, like the mushroom morel.
Morel?
And yes,
Okay. And Gaines?
Yes. And I'll make a motion to nominate Debbie Braun as vice president.
I'll second. Second.
All right, and is there any, do you want to accept Debbie? I don't know if you actually have to,
Yes.
but
I'll accept the nomination.
and is there any discussion about that nomination? Okay, I think we can move to the roll call vote then.
Okay, Ron?
Yes.
That's reparation movement.
Coin?
So really.
This is Coin. No.
Get my point up to
Gaines? Oh, sorry. Mitchell?
Yes.
And Morel?
Yes.
And Gaines?
Yes,
Okay.
thanks, Julie.
Mhm.
And Brian, I think it was the corporate secretary and the treasurer we have to do as well?
I'll
Just
defer
discussion.
to Charles.
No, we don't have to reelect them. They're in place. Unless you want to consider somebody else.
No, I just, part of the discussion of how this process works and whether we do it every May and all of that, I was told that it was the corporate secretary and the
Yeah,
treasurer as well.
I didn't look at the ordinance recently, but if we're not making a change, we don't need to have the election.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on then, approving the minutes from April 8th, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 8th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Mitchell seconds.
Great, any issues, any discussion? They are awesome and thorough as always. Thank you, Julie.
Roll call vote. Ron?
Yes.
Coin?
This is Coin. Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Morel?
It's morel.
Oh, sorry,
Um,
Morel.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Mhm.
Yes.
And Gaines?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the monthly bills. And Brian, if you can tell us about those.
Sure. as usual, recap the unusuals. ASCAP is a licensing rights fee for music to be played. Apparently, when I filled it out a month or two ago, I did it incorrectly and we were short $10.66. So that's the bill you see there that we still owe. As we go down, Claire Baker is a refund. BNS Sports is camp supplies. Chicago Tribune Media Group is the bid notice for the courts. As we go further down, Continental Construction Company is 1/3 of the money due to them for the courts, which has been started and should be done hopefully the end of next week. Evanston Lumber, variety of things for gardens and repair. Fresh Prints of Evanston is t-shirts and our Ridgeville Park District tablecloths. The t-shirts were the ones you saw for Earth Day. As we go further down, iParks is our annual insurance coverage. Shama Jacover is minutes for the Equity Committee. Johnson Paving is for our wonderful new parking lot, which is superb. Language in Action is a class fee for the instructor. As we go further down, Stephanie Mendoza is a reissued check. OC ramps are the skate obstacles that we ordered. Pinnell Andrews Construction is for the equipment removal at Reba and benches ×6 that they poured the concrete forms for. Ania Placetta is a reissued check. Karen Sandler, refund. Gabriel Schaefer, refund. Sunrise Tree, we pruned every tree in the K-Lee tot lot at Callan and Mulford. And that's it for the unusuals.
Mitchell moves to approve the May 2020 minutes in the amount of $113,242.78.
That's the bills, not the minutes.
All right, bills.
Need a second.
Sorry, I was on mute. I said, is there a second? But nobody heard me.
I second it.
Okay.
Wrong, second it.
Anybody have any questions or any discussion? Okay, great. We can roll call.
Braun,
Yes.
Coin,
This is Coin, yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to petty cash expenditures for May. And Brian, if you can tell us about these.
Sure. As we go through it, Amazon.com supplies for dance class and a cord for our new copy machine. Apple is memory for our iPad. Facebook is an ad. Heart Smart is new pads and new batteries for our AEDs. Illinois Association of Park Districts is boot camp for Mick Morrell. Johnny Seeds for seeds for parks and gardens. MailChimp emails over 2,000. National Wildlife is our annual renewal. Rick Peterson Plumbing had to rod the sewer at Cayman East. It was full of roots. Sam's Club annual membership renewal and Earth Day snacks. Maggie Weber concert for Earth Day and Zoom for the meetings that we're in.
Thanks, Brian. I'll entertain a motion to approve the petty cash for May.
This is Braun. I'll make a motion to approve the petty cash in the amount of $2,483.69.
Mitchell seconds.
Any questions or issues from anybody? I have a question. We ran a Facebook ad for $1.27.
You have to check with Natalie if she's there.
No, we ran, I do it for $20 at a time, but it charges us randomly. So the total cost of that ad was $20. It just came in weird increments.
Oh, bizarre. Okay, that makes more sense. All right, Julie, if you can roll call a vote, please.
Ron,
Yes.
Coin,
This is Coin, yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to the monthly reports then, and we'll hear from Brian first.
Okay, in this board meeting today, February, May 13th, we will welcome Mick Morel. Mick, welcome to the team of Ridgeville Park District Commissioners. We will also discuss an appropriate way to honor Ann Rainey and 30-year retired Commissioner Pat McCord. The month of May has seen some projects getting started and some completed. The community house driveway has been completed. You just paid that bill. It looks wonderful, drives very smoothly. It is a great improvement to Ridgeville Park. The skate obstacles have been ordered and should be here within a couple of weeks. Multi-purpose court and basketball courts, plural, are fenced off and under repair. They should be completed by next Friday. Weather permitting, that includes rain and cold temperatures. Park benches scheduled for replacement have been removed and concrete pads poured. This is taking place at Riva Park, Kaylee Tot Lot, and Hull Terrace Callan Tot Lot. Benches will be installed by our crew this week. They are installed. I can report that. They're completely installed. Also, the Kaylee Tot Lot was pruned by Sunrise Tree. The tree service, the entire park needed pruning. The maintenance crew has been busy cutting parks, repairing, tilling gardens, and maintaining various buildings. Natalie Selly has the summer program staffed. The CPR training will happen next Thursday. Natalie will update you in her report. Abby has the office running smoothly. It is my plan to get you a tentative budget before the June 10th, 2021 board meeting. We are putting that tentative proposal together as a staff for your review. You'll have the months of June, July, and August to review it, and we will pass the appropriation ordinance in the September 2021 board meeting. Finally, in your board packet, you will see two drawings. Drawing 1 is Reba Park as it sits now. Drawing 2 is Reba Park with the fence moved forward, which gives the board an idea of how much space is available in the southwest quadrant for a possible nature-based play area. That's it.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions for Brian? Okay, moving along. We've got Jerry's report. Is somebody going to be reading that for him?
Yeah, I talked to Jerry and we talked about just what areas to highlight. As I mentioned earlier, Jerry's in Kansas City and or Omaha. His sisters live in Kansas City. His mother lives in Omaha. He's making the trip through to see his relatives. So quickly, the Tax Extension Division of Cook County Clerk's Office completed the process of transferring the tax figures from the district's levy ordinance into the county systems for generating the final 2020 tax bills in June. This is done every year. This is done around this time every year. Jerry completed the certification process on May 3rd. As we skim down a little further, to ensure excess surpluses, I'm sorry, let me read the whole paragraph. As noted, each of the past couple of months, the revenues and the appropriations are at an unhealthy concern to Jerry to ensure excess surpluses are reduced as planned and that reserves are appropriately healthy. It's important to achieve the $120,000 shortfall of revenues over appropriations. District performance is currently over $280,000 away from achieving that. I can tell you we just spent $113,000 in bills, and next month we will have several large bills on it, including the courts being completed and possibly whatever you approve today for Reba Park and the copy machine. So next month we're going to do in excess of $100,000 in bills. Also, So that's all going to be to Jerry's liking, and we're making progress on his achieving his targets. So that's basically it. He mentions a little bit later about a board approval, which will correct itself, but you don't need to do that in outstandings. So that's it in a nutshell. Following all that is all his graphs and charts for the appropriation ordinances.
Okay, thank you, Jerry and Brian. Any questions from anybody? Okay, I think we'll move on then to Natalie's monthly report.
Okay. Our Earth Day event, we held our first annual Earth Day cleanup and concert event on April 22nd. Volunteers joined us at Brummel Park and Leiter Park to do a walkthrough of the neighborhood and pick up trash. Thank you to Matt and Martha for being my fearless leaders on that adventure. Once we were back at Ridgeville, we had recycled arts and crafts. We had a wildflower seed bomb making table, complimentary snacks and t-shirts, which were designed by Mick's mom that were absolutely beautiful. And we had a live concert with the band Where's Maggie? We had about 100 to 120 people show up, including children and adults. I know that because I had 100 shirts made and they were all gone. It was a beautiful day, and I look forward to carrying that tradition forward. Park art update. I had a meeting last week with Art Encounter and the artist who had done the beautiful mural that we have at Ridgeville Park. And she's going to be painting 5 of the 10 benches that we have at Ridgeville. If you've been by the park over the last few months, you noticed that we painted them all bright, vibrant colors that came directly from that mural. So 5 of them she's going to be muraling as well. She has some super cool designs that she's pulled directly out of the mural that are really kind of nature-based that she'll be starting on in June. So keep an eye out for that. Summer camp and staffing update. Summer camp plans and registration are coming along very well. We have registered 18 kids for the Creative Arts Camp ages 9 to 12 that will be at Ridgeville. And we've registered 10 kids for the Creative Arts Camp ages 6 to 8 that will be at Cayman Park. Right now, our registration limits are really confined by the restrictions set forth by the state of Illinois reopening plans and the CDC. So we have wait lists for both of those camps. And as things change, we take on more kids, and we're keeping a pretty close eye on that. V. Witter is going to be leading our 6 to 8-year-old camp, and Cynthia Gonzalez, we welcome her. She'll be the camp director for the 9 to 12-year-olds. I have 4 counselors on a staggered schedule for each of those 2 camps that will cover the full day camps that we're offering this summer. We'll have extended care available from 7:30 to 9 a.m. and from 4 to 6 p.m. Most of the staff that we have coming back this summer are returning counselors from past summers, and I'm thrilled to have them back. We do have a couple new ones as well. Our orientation is set for May 22nd. And last but not least, because I can't let her go, JC Herman will be doing some art workshops with the kids this summer, because I can't imagine a summer without her. And Evanston Public Library will bring their book and games mobile every week as well. So it's shaping up to be a really fun summer. Farmers Market update. I have confirmed with Lyons Fruit Farm that they will join us for a short in-person market this season from June 23rd to August 25th. I'm currently working on finding additional vendors to join, and I've actually received a fair amount of interests from folks that want to come out with that are various types of vendors. Some of them sell art, jewelry, some of them have hot sauce, different kinds of foods. So I'll keep you posted as I receive those applications, but we will have an in-person market. Lyons Fruit Farm will also continue to do their deliveries. So you know, if folks can't make it out to the in-person market for whatever reason, that option will still exist as well. Concerts on the Ridge update. We have 8 concerts lined up this summer. Holy cow, it's going to be great. Every Wednesday night in July and August, we have a performance from 6 to 7:30 at Ridgeville Park. I won't read the lineup to you at this time. It's available on our website. You can take a look. We have a lot of folks returning that were big hits last year and years before that people have begged me to bring back. And then we have some new folks as well. So should be fun. Shakespeare on the Ridge update. Mudlark Theater will be doing some small performances at Ridgeville Park in June in an effort to keep the audiences small, and because that space is much smaller where they perform the shows. I'm not doing any promotion for these shows. They're doing that all on their own to keep those audiences limited for now. We also will not be having an adult Shakespeare show this summer, but fingers crossed, and looking forward to getting that festival back up and running as we have before next summer. Soccer festival. There will be a soccer festival. There will not be a festival. It will be a tournament only this July, on July 10th. The registration is open online. Folks can sign up for their 4-person teams. There won't be any food or music or kids activities this summer, but we are going to give it a go with the actual soccer tournament. As a reminder, that event is a big fundraiser that the foundation co-hosts with us, and a lot of the money that comes in for that festival is what helps us fund the concerts. So we're going to be super safe about it and give it a go. And that'll be on July 10th. And that's it.
Good.
I said multiple things while I was on mute. So I'm sorry about that. I had said, thank you, Natalie. I had also said, does anyone have any questions or comments for Natalie? Mick?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for doing the Earth Day thing. I think events like that and like the one you put together at the fall are really, really great. And they're a lot of fun. And I really think the community enjoys them. And I think being a small park district like we are, I really think that's kind of a cool thing. That's what Ridgeville is about. Just, you know what I mean? Meeting people in the community. And it's a right. I get to meet a whole lot of people there, see little kids playing. So it's a lot of fun. So I just wanted to thank you for doing that. Another great job.
Thank you. It's nice to be able to do my job. I've missed it so much the past year.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Mick said. Both those events were great. This spring one was especially fun because just feels like we've all been inside so much and we haven't been seeing people. And I, couldn't have been more excited to go over there with a blanket ready to set it down on the grass for after we did our trash picking. And the music was so good. We got really lucky with beautiful weather that day. And it was so great to see JC in person. She was doing the art thing. Sarah had fun with that. And the seed bombs, the music, the free snacks, the t-shirts. I mean, that event had everything. It was so great. So I'm really looking forward to concerts and other events like that. Was that our first Earth Day event? We've never done an Earth Day event before?
Yeah, so in the spring we normally do the golden egg hunt, but we couldn't do that this year. And I really missed events. So I was like, let's clean up the park. So it worked out really well. And the fall frenzy in the fall, normally we do our Halloween happening indoors and have like a maze and all of that. And we obviously couldn't do that either. So since that had been so successful in the fall, I thought, you know what, let's try to do something again in the spring. And it was a great turnout.
Yeah, it sure was. So thank you so much for everything you did to make that happen. I remember feeling like a little anxious that I didn't want it to be too well attended because, we're still in this place of not wanting the numbers too big. So it felt perfect. It was a really good turnout, but it was not too crowded at all. So, okay. So we will move on then to hearing from JC with an update from the Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee.
There. I do. I have to add, yeah, that Earth Day event was super, super fun. Let's do that again. That was awesome. Okay, so today the Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, with Dr. Effiam's guidance, we've worked to create an equity policy. The policy also includes a charter and the equity lens. And we recommend the board vote to adopt this policy to ensure that Ridgeville Park District continues its work towards equity. So it was included in the board packet. I'm hoping you all had a chance to take a look at it. I don't see Pat here, but hold on, my screen's a little bit small.
Pat's not here. Pat's is not well. So
Okay.
she's not at the meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. So if anyone has any questions, I will do my absolute best to answer them. I am definitely not the expert on this. I am learning with the rest of the committee. But I am, I can answer any questions that anyone has. I will do my best.
Anybody have any questions for JC?
All looks good.
Nice.
Yeah, JC, do you have something additional?
I don't. I just, is there anything else that you all need from me before you discuss and move forward with this?
I don't think so. I mean, and I can say firsthand from being on the committee that we took a lot of time and a lot of discussion to put this together in the way that made the most sense for us. And so, we didn't deliver it to the board until we really felt it was ready. And so I feel very comfortable with it.
I would absolutely like to echo that. We worked really hard on this. We've been looking at this for a really long time. We thought it through very carefully. And I think we're proud of what we put together to bring to you all today.
Yeah, definitely. Debbie, were you going to say something? Debbie, you're on mute.
Okay, we don't have to vote on accepting this, do we, or do we?
I think we do. We talked about that a number of times. I think that, yeah, Natalie.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if there's no questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion to accept the equity policy from the Ready Committee.
All right, this is Braun. I'll make a motion to accept the policies from the Ready Committee.
Mitchell seconds.
And Julie, I don't know if this is the official wording that we need to have, the wording that's on the agenda, but the new equity charter and lens procedure. But whatever, however it's titled on those documents themselves, I'm sure is fine for recording purposes. And then, yeah, we're ready for a roll call vote.
I think you're adopting the policies, not accepting them.
Adopting it, right. Make a motion to adopt the policy.
Okay.
Second as well.
New equity charter and lens procedure.
Roll call vote with Braun,
Yes.
Coin,
This is Coin, yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes, and this is just a small technicality, but it says discuss and approve on our agenda. So if there's a place for amendments, that could be changed to adopt, but I don't, Charlie, is that necessary or is it okay as is?
No, I don't think it's necessary. That was just the agenda. This isn't diverging from the agenda.
Okay, yeah, so in the minutes, it'll be an adoption. Okay, thank you, JC. Moving into the old business section of the agenda, discuss amendments to the general ordinance of the Ridgeville Park District, section 6.14 and 6.21. This is Mitchell's agenda item.
So I know there's another barbecue policy on the agenda. Would it make sense to move that up and discuss both of these together?
I was gonna suggest that simply because I at this point in time, I think it makes sense to discuss the new policy suggestions before any vote would take place on what's been lingering for quite a while. So if that's okay with you, Mitchell, that's what I was going to suggest as well.
Well, I think we should talk about it all at the same time. I would like to move forward with this today, and what it does is clearly states that the board and the director are allowed to make barbecue policy, right? And so that's what we're talking about later in the meeting. The reason for updating the ordinance is there's two separate sections that deal with fire that are kind of inconsistent. And so what we did is strike the entire section 6.21 and have all of the information in 6.14.
So I'll make a motion to move new business point D up the agenda to be discussed at the same time as old business item A. Is there a second?
Sure, so it's a motion to suspend the rules, correct?
I do not believe we've done a motion to suspend the rules previously. We've just made motions to move things on the agenda.
All right.
But Charlie, is there a need to say motion to suspend the rules first? Is that a separate motion before moving agenda items?
No, I don't think you need to do that. I mean, I think it's pretty clear what you're doing here. It technically is a motion to suspend the rules, but I think it's fine going the way it is.
All right, I second the motion then.
Okay, roll call vote. Braun,
Yes.
Coin,
This is Coin, yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes. Okay, so Matt, you were just sort of starting to summarize there what the details of your ordinance amendment were. Do you want to go into any other details before we talk about what's new on the agenda in this realm?
So I guess I would start by just moving to amend section 6.14 of the general ordinance and repeal section 6.21 of the general ordinance.
Sorry, can you say that again? You moved
Right.
to do what? To make those amendments?
Yes, to amend section 6.14 of the general ordinance and to repeal section 6.21 of the general ordinance.
So,
Okay.
Commissioner Mitchell, to clarify, are we talking about the written ordinance that we had previously prepared?
Yes.
So I would suggest, which is fine, I would just suggest that you, if this is going to be adopted, we change the dating in there because
Yeah.
it obviously can't take effect last year.
Yeah. So I would move to have that go into effect on June 1st, 2021.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. As I said before, I was thinking we could discuss things before moving to a vote, but if you'd like to move to a vote on that first, we can see if there's a second for that motion.
Aren't you supposed to second it before you discuss it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, perhaps
I'm
we
saying that
should,
there's time for discussion.
perhaps we should clarify whether we're discussing yours or discussing mine. Because I was moving to move my agenda item up. We've had 14 months to discuss what you've proposed and there's been no movement and no action. And that's part of the reason that I started to come up with something more substantive in the realm of policy as opposed to an ordinance amendment. So that's what I wanted to discuss.
What I'm saying is that they're not inconsistent.
Oh, I believe that they are actually, because the policy specifies things that are inconsistent with the amendments to the ordinance that you have proposed.
I disagree.
Well, it's actually factual. It's not really an opinion thing. The policy talks about requiring reservations for
So you
barbecue.
can have it in the policy and not have it in the ordinance.
I'm sorry.
What
You
you
can have
said,
that in the policy and not have it in the ordinance. It's not exclusive.
Then what is the point of the amendments that you're making to the ordinance?
To deal with the inconsistencies of 6.21 and 6.14.
Oh, the inconsistencies between the two pieces of the ordinance, not inconsistencies between ordinance and policy?
Sure, you can, the ordinance as written says that no person shall light or make use of any fire on Park District property except in such places and at such times as may be designated for such purpose and under such rules as may be prescribed by the Director of Parks and Recreation or the board. So.
Okay, let's go
putting in the
backwards a second
ordinance
here.
that-
Did we have a second? Do we have a second for Matt's motion?
well, Braun, I'll second it so we can have a discussion.
Okay, thank you. So now we're discussing whether we're going to amend the ordinance. And at this point, I just want to make it clear that we absolutely should have consistency within the ordinance and also between the ordinance and our policies, because the rules and policies and practices need to be in line with the ordinance, or else changes have to be made. To me, the ordinance, as many of us know, was not written by us. That came from a state level and it was just adopted by default. There were not changes
I don't know
made
about
to
that.
it so that I'm sorry?
I'm not sure about that.
I'm pretty sure that is how it happened, and we've discussed this before. I mean, we're operating with an ordinance that I believe is from what, 1988? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, Charlie, maybe you can help us out here. That was not written by us, I don't think, in any part. Or Brian?
I could tell you it was written in 1988, and it was probably written by the Ridgeville Park District lawyers.
I don't know. I mean, I was studying for the bar exam that summer. So that was a long time ago.
Correct.
I suspect that we probably got something from the Illinois Association of Park Districts that tracked the state statute to some degree. But it's possible that there's nobody who has any memory of what happened at the time that I'm aware of. So.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sorry if I have wrong info. I was 6 in 1988, and so I'm going off of what had been discussed previously in other contexts relating to the ordinance, which again, it was my understanding that that was not written by us or for us. It's sort of the default that we would, adopt, or unless we choose to make changes to it, which of course we can at any time, and we have changed it one time recently. My point being, whether that info is correct or not, my point is that the ordinance is lesser known, than our policies and procedures. And in the realm of barbecue, one of the issues at hand is that our policy has not been clear. It hasn't been clearly put in writing, clearly articulated. There's been some confusion about whether grilling is allowed or not, and when and where and why. So that prompted us to look at that policy and get more clear on what's going on. But instead of getting clear on policy, all we had on the table at any point prior to tonight was an amendment to change the ordinance. And that has not yet come to a vote. It was tabled partially because of tabling non-essential business, but it was also, I think, tabled because we did not, through discussion, reach a point where we felt like we were ready to take action on that. And as I think I've said already, I'll just reiterate, what occurred to me is that we should be setting policy. We should be deciding what we're doing in the realm of grilling, and come to some sort of agreement in the form of at least 3 of us voting that we like a policy. And then if there's inconsistencies between the policy that we approve and the ordinance as it stands, we can deal with it at that point and make the ordinance be in compliance and consistency with our policy. But to amend the ordinance first and simply to strike sections and make grilling practices such that no notice is required, which in my opinion is just very problematic for safety and for logistics of conflicts of the use of space when there's events scheduled. It's just, in my opinion, it's not the right way to do it. So,
But it allows for the board and the director to set the policy. So what I'm proposing does not state that you can't set a policy.
sure. So could you actually, Matt, explain the basis for each of the amendments that you're proposing in the ordinance? Like specifically, if you're striking something, why are you striking it? If you're changing it, why are you changing it?
So you've been very adamant that we don't have a barbecue ban and that barbecuing isn't allowed. Section 6.14 and 6.21 deal with picnics and fires. It's the two of them are internally, I think, inconsistent, and the process for and both require a permit from the director, and there is no permit process, nor is there a place to dispose of coals, which is part of the ordinance. So I think you can argue that there is a de facto ban on barbecuing in the parks. And that is what I'm trying to take out of the ordinance. We all think that you're allowed to barbecue in the parks. I want to make that clear in the ordinance.
Okay, so does anybody else want to weigh in on Matt's ordinance amendments proposal?
Yeah, I wish we could have done this a year ago. So if we can do it tonight, I fully support it.
Well, let's figure out what we're doing.
Well,
mean-
it sounds like yeah, I'm sorry, Debbie.
No, that's good. I just wanted to say, Matt, the ordinance, you want to strike 614?
No, strike 6.21
Oh, okay.
regarding picnics. And really everything in this ordinance is covered in different parts of the ordinance. So 6.21, it's more just duplicative than changing any policy. This part A is dealt with in 6.14. Part B is dealt with in 6.20. And part C, events sponsored by the Park District in conjunction with supervised programs shall be exempt. That's, I don't think, necessary.
So if we keep 614 as is,
No, we made some changes to the language. If you look, it's pretty clear in
right.
the
The only
packet
thing that,
of
I'm sorry.
section 1.
of what? I'm sorry. So if we keep 614 as the ordinance, can we add other stuff to it, like reservations or whatever? That just becomes the policy?
I think that's all under the policy.
And
Right? It doesn't have to be the ordinance. There's the board and the director can set rules. Right? And that's why I've been pushing this, is if we don't agree on the rules, that's fine, we can disagree. But I think that the ordinance should be clear.
Okay,
In my opinion, it's not clear right now. And so there's nothing, what I'm proposing tonight, you could pass this and then also pass Martha's policy proposal. And they're not inconsistent. Where I think the ordinance as written, as it stands today, I think is inconsistent with actual practice and policy.
every situation.
So I don't know if this is helpful, but the ordinance is the law. You pass that ordinance, it becomes the law. When you set policy, that's guidance to Brian on how he does his job.
Sure, and that's partly, I think, why this should be more open-ended. We should let the board and the director have some leeway, as opposed to putting in the ordinance exactly what we think the policy should be. That can change over time. But what I'm trying to do is make the ordinance clear that 1, barbecuing is allowed in the parks, and 2, you have to follow the parks rules to do it.
Parks rules. Okay, so the rules becomes the policy. I mean, the policy becomes the rules as of that, once the board and the director agree on them.
Sure. Or, I mean, I think the director has the authority to make the rules. I think the board has also the authority to do the same.
So essentially, changing the ordinance to the way Matt has it changed sets an umbrella under which we can set policies and rules. So we have to vote on this ordinance to make it clear that it is okay to barbecue in the parks. After we do that, we can then discuss and set policy and rules for the residents and citizens to follow now that they're aware that they can grill.
I guess my confusion,
Bingo.
but I guess my confusion is we never had an ordinance that didn't allow people to barbecue in the parks.
Correct.
Right. But what they're saying is, if you read it, there is wording that might, it clear, no person shall light or make use of any fire on park district property except in such places as sometimes designated. So it, in a way, it says you can't light fires without permission. Right?
Well, yeah, and I'm not willing to say that's okay.
Which we can discuss later, but
oh, I see. For such and under such rules as may be prescribed by the director of Parks and Recreation or the board. So we
Right.
still make the rules and
You can
regulations.
still make the rules.
Right,
Yes.
and it says that already, correct?
Yeah,
The only thing
yeah.
that you're changing in 6.14 is that you want to remove and then only with the permission of, and that you're adding the part about the coal receptacles. But everything else that you see in this wording is already in the ordinance. And we don't necessarily all agree that we should be removing the idea that permission has to be part of lighting fires in our parks. So I don't think we should make that change. And when it comes to
don't
putting it
either.
into law that there are coal receptacles, we might decide those coal receptacles are not going to be in the parks long term. We haven't even used them yet. So why would we amend our ordinance and make it law that the coal receptacles are part of the deal? It makes more sense to talk about the policy, agree on the policy, and then change the ordinance as needed. If there are inconsistencies now, they've always been there. We don't have to deal
and
with
that's
that.
why I think we should change it.
We don't have to deal with the ordinance before we deal with policy. Policy should be first, and then we can make sure that the ordinance is consistent.
I disagree.
The wording of the ordinance in 614 concerns me, Matt, because it.
Which part, Debbie?
Well, what's left out of it, you know?
Well, the only part that's left out, meaning the part that we're
Permission.
striking, is and then with the permission of.
Right,
You're saying that taking it out, you have a problem with that.
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And
I
in
do too.
terms of the receptacles, we can always say in the ordinance that coals need to be properly disposed of in a safe manner provided by the park district. So if they're receptacles or something else in the future, it doesn't matter. But mostly,
This is-
I don't agree with taking out or leaving out or whatever, that we have to have permission to light a fire in the park.
This is Coin, just a point of order question, Martha. Do we have Matt's revision of the ordinance already, a motion and a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I call the question so we can at least vote and see if we have 3 votes to support it? And if so, we vote, and then we can talk about the rules later. We can disagree on what we're talking about, but I'd like to call the question and see if we have 3 votes, please.
So now the proper thing is to call for a second on that. And if there is a second, that issue is voted on. So you will vote on whether or not to vote on the motion.
Okay, is there a second for Dan's motion?
Mitchell seconds.
Okay, all in favor then of ending discussion and moving to a vote on this at this
Can I,
time?
can I say one more thing on this? So to me, this, the fires to me is more directed towards campfires than a barbecue. That's what I feel about this amendment, right?
So
And-
Nick, let me just explain that when Dan said that he's calling the question, what he's proposing is that nobody is allowed to discuss anymore and that we have
Okay.
to move immediately to a vote. So then that in effect is a motion of its own. Matt seconded. So now we actually will be roll call voted, we'll take a roll call vote, Julie will, as to whether we agree that we want to end discussion and vote or whether we have more to say. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mick, but if you have more to say, you might want to vote no on moving to the vote on this immediately. And in order to be in accordance with the rules, Julie, if you'd.
Point of order, I just want to disagree. He doesn't have to vote no. He can speak after this when we make the rules. My goodness, there's plenty of time to discuss this. But anyway, we're supposed to be voting.
Then why call the point of order if there's plenty of time to discuss it?
Right.
We're supposed to
let's
vote.
actually- Nope, let's actually end discussion as you asked to have happened, Dan. And Julie, if you would roll call vote us, please.
Sure. Ron,
No.
Coin,
This is Coin, yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel,
Welcome.
I'm gonna say yes.
and Gaines.
No. Okay, I wasn't keeping track. How did that vote go?
That was 2 noes and 3 yeses.
Okay, so we're moving to vote then on Matt's proposal of amending the ordinance. And so I think we go immediately to another vote on that.
Okay. So Braun,
No.
Coin,
This is Coin, yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
and Gaines.
No. Thanks, Julie.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have apparently amended our ordinance in ways that are possibly inconsistent with the policy. That would,
We need to vote on the policy, don't we?
well, yes, we would vote on the policy. First, we would discuss it. So even though the agenda item was moved up, we still voted on the old business piece first. And now we would discuss the, so it was originally new business item D, discuss policies and procedures for gatherings, grilling, facility rentals, and reservations. So in order to discuss this, we can, I'll entertain a motion to approve this RPD reservations and rentals policy.
This is Braun. I'll make a motion to approve the RPD reservations and rentals policy.
So maybe it's just me, but I can't hear Commissioner Braun, and I want to make sure that it's getting properly recorded.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
So quiet.
I don't know what, wait, let me. How's that? I don't know what the problem is.
I can hear you. You're just quiet, Debbie.
Oh, yeah.
I can still hear you.
Okay, well, I make a motion to approve the RPD reservations and rentals policy, or to adopt it or to approve it.
It's I don't think it's an adoption. I think it's an
Okay,
approval.
To approve.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, I will second that motion. And now we're in discussion. Charlie, I have a question for you. If the ordinance is restrictive in a sense, any policy that we write cannot be less restrictive, but can be more restrictive? Is that how that goes?
Yeah, I'm not understanding exactly what you mean, but if you were to, if you were to adopt something that was inconsistent, and it's not an ordinance, but it's just a policy, the ordinance would control. If you decide that it's part of the ordinance, then you're effectively amending what's been there. So typically a policy is just guidance to Brian on how he should do his job. So you could say, the policy is only issue permits on yellow paper. And then Brian knows he should have yellow paper to do the permits. But it's not a rule and it can be changed.
Okay, I guess what I'm getting at, let me be more specific in my question. Sorry, you need to get out of here. If we just amended 6.14 of the general ordinance to remove and then only with the permission of, and if our policy basically says that to light a fire in our park, you do need permission in the form of a reservation, possibly paying a fee, whatever the details are in terms of securing that ability to grill per our rules or policy or whatever you want to call it, is it, I mean, does that fly? That our policy could be very specific about how you go about making a reservation or whatever, filling out an application, that kind of thing. I'm just trying to understand what the effect of the change is that we just apparently approved, which is that we removed and then with the permission of. What is the actual effect legally of that change?
So
Yeah.
the ordinance you've adopted says that people can light fires subject to the rules of the park district. And you can direct Brian to adopt appropriate rules to say, we don't want things, we don't want fires after dark. We don't want more than 3 fires in any particular park at any particular time. Or you could say, and Brian, we want you to give out permits on a first come, first served basis, but never more than 1 at a time. And one of the rules can be, you got to make a reservation ahead of time before you can have the fire. You can't just go and have a fire without letting anybody know.
Okay, and 6.21, which we just removed entirely from our ordinance, A had said picnics requiring fires shall be held only in those areas where fireplaces, which we don't have, stoves, which we don't have, pits, which we don't have been provided for that purpose and upon issuance of a permit by the park district. We also did not require permits. People were allowed to grill. So we've removed something that said that picnics requiring fires shall be held only in those areas where blah, blah, blah. But again, we never supplied any of that. So, I mean, it was inconsistent and confusing at best because it literally didn't apply. Well, what is the effect of removing it entirely? Does that mean that there's nothing to specify where somebody may have a fire, or is the answer the same, which is that once we set our policy, that's what sets the rules for
So-
how and where and when and that kind of stuff?
I would think it would be a valid policy to say that the director shall define the areas in which fires will be allowed. And in doing so, he should keep in mind public safety, cleanliness of the parks, whatever. You can be specific, you don't have to be specific. But you should say it's in your discretion to figure out the best places to allow fires, and to allow fires to be there on a first come, first served basis, or on a reservation basis, or, whatever you want the policy to be.
Okay. So moving on then to this policy that I initially put together just based on what Brian had put together in the past as a result of our ongoing discussions about barbecuing in the parks. So I took what he had put together. I also added things we had discussed. I added some ideas of my own. I even added things that we don't have to go with. It's just some ideas, because in order to set this policy, we needed to get specific in some ways that we hadn't yet. So after I put something together, for those who don't already know this, I shared it with Mick. I shared it with Brian and Natalie. So changes were made by Mick, changes were made by Natalie and Brian. And so what you're looking at in terms of reservations and rentals policy is a product of all of us kind of taking a stab at it. The footnotes are notes of mine relating to any one item to kind of further explain it or talk about some of the possibilities so that didn't clutter up the policy itself. I don't know how thoroughly people have had a chance or not to look at this, but are we, how would people like to discuss? Do you want to just go through and talk about any problems you have, or should we go just go through it piece by piece and talk about whether we're okay with it or not? Because as the agenda says, I'd like to approve some policy tonight, if at all possible. And that's what this document is an attempt to get at. So, I mean, I'll just open it up to whoever's suggestions. There's a motion on the floor to approve this policy.
And a second. I think you seconded it, didn't you, Martha?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're in discussion stage, and I just as coin saying, thank you. I'm glad we are moving forward on our policy for barbecuing. My opinion, this is really more about people being able to barbecue without neighbors calling the police on them and inviting people to have fun in the park. So I'm talking about barbecuing, not necessarily bonfires. I'm talking about barbecuing. And I would like the policy to strike any reservation mandate. Reservations, of course, can be made, and they would be prioritized if someone had made a reservation. But just like the city of Evanston, people can barbecue anytime they want, as long as the park is open. And so that's what I'd like to do.
I feel very strongly that we should have reservations. I want to know when somebody's building a fire in the park. And bonfires aren't allowed anyway, as far as I know. We're talking about barbecuing, grilling.
Okay,
And
so if I could bring everybody back actually to the policy that's been put forth. I don't think it's beneficial for us to go down the same exact path we've gone down before about discussion, because now we actually have a document in front of us with policy. We've had an independent equity consultant investigate whether there is an equity issue here about barbecuing, about police being called. Dr. Effiam has concluded that is not an issue. There's no evidence to suggest that that's been a problem. We've also never heard, unless I'm missing something that happened when I was not here, we've never heard from a resident directly saying that the police were called on them when they were grilling. It just plain hasn't happened, at least not that we have any evidence of. So we don't need to spend a lot of time discussing things that are non-issues. What we do have in front of us, and the motion and the second that have been made, are concerning the policy that's in front of us right now. So if we could talk about the specifics of this and whether there are any specific issues of things that you need changed, removed, or added. Yes, Matt.
So I agree with Dan. I don't think reservations should be mandatory for groups of less than 15 people. If this is presented as is, I would vote no. I think reservations can be encouraged. I think that's great. And I agree with everything else. So what I disagree with is kind of third paragraph, general park information. Reservations are required for any functions involving grilling. I would take that out. There's three things altogether. Page 2, grilling information. Paragraph 2, grilling is allowed at Elks and Cayman East grilling areas during park hours. I would open that up to all of the parks approved by our insurance and the fire department, which I think is all the parks except for Riva and Mulford. Finally, the fourth point in grilling information, grilling reservations are for the entire calendar day. Only one reserved party per grilling area per day. I would strike that too. I think if somebody wanted to have a noon barbecue and somebody else wanted to have a 5 p.m. barbecue, I don't think that's inconsistent. I think we should err on the side of making the parks available. And I do think that there is an access issue and that mandating a reservation or a permit is an unnecessary hurdle.
What do you mean by a access issue? Because what do you mean?
So I'm saying if you live across from the park and it's 5:30 p.m. on a Friday and you say, hey, I'll take the family out. Your brother stops over. We're going to go grill across the street in the park. It's not allowed unless you called ahead and made the reservation.
Right. And that's so difficult.
No, I'm just saying we're not open. I mean, it's only during 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Right,
So,
because that's when we have people running around and seeing what's going on at the park. You want to
that's not when people grill. You know, and I agree. If you're having a party in the park, yes, you need to get a reservation. You need to clear it. If you're having a family get together and doing a little grilling, I don't think.
Why is that? I don't, well, forget it. I mean, you know how I feel.
I know you and me disagree, and
so that's cool. So we'll just leave it there.
All right, I don't have anything else.
So, I think, first of all, I think grilling should be allowed only in designated places. So I think I don't care which parks it's at, but I think grilling should only be allowed in locations where we have set tables, posted rules about grilling. Along with that, we would put no alcohol, no amplified music, stuff that would, no fireworks, stuff that goes along with grilling. And when I say by go along with grilling, I mean that from experience. I was a lifeguard for 15 years down at the City of Evanston Lakefront, where a lot of people grilled. Now, the difference between Ridgeville and the City of Evanston Lakefront is Ridgeville, first of all, the City of Evanston Lakefront has some spots with grills. We won't. You'll bring your own grill, right? The City of Evanston Lakefront has public restrooms that are open. Ridgeville parks do not. I do not see large groups. I do not see people using Ridgeville parks as a destination to grill. What I do see is what Matt brought up, where the guy across the street wants to come over and grill because he can't grill at his apartment, or somebody wants to take their little propane camping stove over to the park and grill. That's the type of grilling that we're talking about. I don't think we're talking about large parties. And like we said, if we do have large parties, reservations are needed. So I've put a lot of thought to this, and I don't think we should have to require reservations for people to grill. As long as they follow the rules, they're in the right locations at the right hours, They're not going to be drinking. There's not fireworks. These aren't large parties. People aren't going to be there for a long time. Somebody's have to go home and pee, right? Within the amount of time that they're grilling. Where was I at?
What is
So
the-
I also think we can, I think the way we not push, but the way we adopt reservations is by making it not something you have to do, but something that you would want to do, right? If you want to come grill, we have the opportunity for you to, at no cost, because you're a Ridgeville resident, reserve this grilling spot that has your name posted on it, because Ruben or the guys came out in the morning and tag your name to it, just like they do down at the City of Evanston Lakefront. Says, Joe Smith, this is yours from this time to this time. If somebody else is there when you show up, sorry, they got to leave because he's got it reserved. I think that's a good thing. But at the same time, I think the number of times that we're talking about somebody walking across the street to grill in the park without a reservation is so small that I personally, I wouldn't want to keep that from them because they're worried about breaking the rule. So that's why I don't think reservations are needed.
I'd like to say too, to clarify, Matt, the policy says that reservations must be made between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday, not that people can only grill during those hours.
I agree.
So I think that was a little, if somebody wants to grill at 5:30, they could make a reservation at 4:30.
I'm just saying on a Saturday afternoon, maybe you hadn't thought of it Friday at 4:55. So in your scenario, that person would be out of luck for grilling in the park. In my scenario, they'd go across the street and barbecue with their family.
Because to me, the safety issue is more important than if they didn't get it together to know they were going to barbecue on a Saturday or Sunday. And if they want to make a reservation and then they don't use it, that's their business. But I just have
And Debbie, what's your safety concern?
I don't want people lighting fires in the park and we don't know who's doing it. That's my concern. I don't want there to be some big area burned out or some kid who got hurt or something, and we have no idea who was lighting a fire and when. That's my issue. I think
And how would- how
If I
would-
may.
how would-
This is
If I
Coin.
might
I just
say
want to,
something quickly. I think that you guys are at risk of micromanaging here. You need to give Brian some leeway so that he can figure out what makes sense and then report back on what's working, what isn't working, and then you can provide him some guidance. Because I don't care which policy you adopt, but whatever you adopt, it's going to be pretty hard to change it later. And we don't really have any experience that you're basing anything on now. So I think you need to give Brian some leeway here to see what's working and what isn't and report back to you. I'm sorry if I overstepped, but it's just a suggestion.
That makes sense too.
Thank you, Charlie. It's actually a good segue into hearing from Brian, because like I said, we worked on this policy together verbally quite a few times. And then Natalie and Brian sort of, made any changes to what Mick and I had put together. So how do you feel, Brian, about this policy and sort of, loosely the general idea of requiring reservations or not, requiring fees or not, and, what you think is best?
Fees, I don't care about, generally speaking. But there are times and parks and situations where barbecuing won't work. For instance, right now, AYSO, Cayman West Park, Leiter Park, Cayman East, there's soccer every Sunday. Somebody sitting at home, didn't plan it, wants to barbecue. There's, with Matt's suggestion, there's nothing to stop them except there's 200 kids playing soccer in 3 different parks. So there needs to be some kind of control in that regard. Elks Park, there's not so much programming, but there's going to be a concert. That's one day out of the summer, but so that's another issue. And then there's summer camps at Ridgeville Park. Somebody on a Friday afternoon wants to barbecue with the kids in camp. Not so much this year because it's going to be limited numbers, but there could be 40 to 60 kids in the park playing. And then we have a grill set up and somebody plants their grill right next to the coal receptacles. Those are issues that we would have to deal with. How often that would happen, who knows? But but my overall suggestion is start small, see how it goes, and then, let me report back and say, are there issues? Are there not issues? How are we doing? Again, we have never sent Ruben or Marcos or myself into the park and said, pick up your grill, you're out of here. That has never happened in my almost 30 years. It has never happened. But where we do need some kind of notification, there's been 4th of July's or 3rd of July's fireworks nights where there's been 150 people blowing off fireworks and barbecuing, and we have no idea what was going on. And that's when the police got called, not by us, by neighbors. And then we got called, and then our response the next day was we had no idea what was going on. And what would we have done anyways? We would have tried to facilitate some guidance and some rules to that barbecuing event. And when I say 150 people, I'm not kidding you. And a huge mess on the 4th of July morning. But those are issues that we go through as a park staff that exactly how to clean that up would be, I would say, a test case scenario and see how it works.
Brian, this is Coyne.
One thing that we've never done is pick up your grill, you're out of here. That's never happened.
Brian, this is Coyne. About a year and a half ago or so, when we started discussing this, you gave us a proposed policy that included non-mandatory. There were no mandatory reservations, but there was a reservation option if somebody wanted to, save a spot or a day. Are you still supportive of the non-mandatory, or are you saying mandatory?
I'm not saying mandatory. I'm saying if you're going to have an issue of, again, that number of 15 people or more, we should probably know about it. And that gives us two things. One, we can clean it up adequately. Two, we can maybe help with some services. And there's actually number three, it's not going to conflict with another thing going on in the park, like soccer games or races at Cayman East on the 4th of July. Let's say some guy wheels out his grill right next to the Kohl's dispenser, and we've got the races starting in 10 minutes. It's things like that. I mean, you put us in a situation of conflict. That's what happens. We're in a situation of now having to go out and be the bad guy, and that we don't like doing that.
And then people could say, well, I didn't have to make a reservation, so why can't I grill now?
Well, that might happen if it's been a well-planned family event or neighborhood event, and there's 40 people and there's a soccer game going on that has reservations and rentals. That could happen.
I mean, if you're gonna grill, Matt, getting back to that, if you're sitting in your house and you decide you want to grill, surely you make that decision about buying the food and grilling by 5 o'clock that day.
What if it's Saturday or Sunday? What if you have half a
Okay,
cow?
again, it's getting kind of nitpicky. Natalie, did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, I don't know if this makes a difference, but if you're talking about starting small and seeing how it goes, because we bought the receptacles, you could put like 2 out at parks that we don't program as much, like Elks, maybe Lighter, and see how that goes without reservations. I'm just making a suggestion based on what you're all saying. Ridgeville Park is heavily, heavily programmed in the summer, and so is Cayman East and Cayman West. We have lots and lots and lots of people. Whether it's Ridgeville programs or partnerships with other organizations. I'd say Lighter and Elks are the 2 that are programmed least. So if you wanted to do some kind of an experiment and see how it goes, just based on what I do with programming, I would recommend those 2 parks starting there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, because the less programmed they are, the less chance of conflict, which is of course one of the potential problems here with not having any advance notice of parties congregating in those parks. But another thing I just want to throw out there in response to that, and I was talking to Mick about this, the field house at Cayman East is one of our only 2 indoor facilities that we rent out. And Ridgeville, as I think we've all agreed, or we've talked about this previously and it's been brought up tonight, it's definitely one of the program heavy parks. And so even though it's got a lot of space, when it's, you know, seeing its action, it's really quite packed. And I just can't picture grilling working at Ridgeville, which means that the only remaining indoor facility where you could have indoor facility, access to bathrooms, and grill if you want to. And I can definitely picture a party happening in the summer where they would want to grill and have access to the indoors. That's why I think Cayman East is a good fit for one of the options. But I definitely agree with the idea of starting out small, seeing how it goes, trying to be away from the program heavy parks, and you know, just to respond to something else that was proposed, you know, a lot of times people are talking about this 15 or more and 15 or less. That's definitely a way to sort of address the idea that if a couple wants to grill and they happen to have the stuff in their fridge already and they just want to go across the street and they didn't plan ahead, we're not preventing that from happening. I have to add though, there's no enforcement and there won't be. Okay. So when we set policy like this, we're not actually preventing people from doing it. We're not going to run them out of the park, even if it goes against the policy we've set. The policy is for guidance. It's so that people know what is allowed and what's not. That doesn't mean that they're always going to follow it 100%. If we have a policy that you do have to make a reservation, it probably at least cuts down on, if not goes towards eliminating people who don't follow that rule. But the less restrictive the rules are, the more people think they can probably do whatever they want at any time with however many people. So if we want to kind of have a middle ground, perhaps setting that group number differentiation is a way to go, which by the way happened to be in the ordinance, which we just removed. But yeah, Natalie.
Still in the ordinance, 6.20 of the ordinance. It's still anything with 15 or more people needs a permit.
The only other thing I was going to toss out there is that maybe all the parks don't have to be the same, right? So you're correct. Ridgeville and Cayman East have the building facility. So maybe if you want to grill at those 2 parks, you do need a reservation. But if you want to just grill, then you are welcome to go to designated spots that the board decides on, which I would recommend as Elks or Lighter, and that you don't need a reservation for. They could all be different.
Brian, didn't you have the fire department come out and recommend which parks and where, if we were going to have grilling, we should have it?
Yeah, we did that. And we went to the 5 parks and they said, if you decide it's okay in here, they pointed out the safest spot to do it.
Right. And I remember, I think it was
Lighter. They're not privy to programs, camps, numbers.
Right.
So
and I remember Lighter Park, the area that they pointed out to be safe for grilling was quite near the houses.
Yeah, it's.
And I don't know how the neighbors are gonna, you know.
Yeah, but let me just say this real quickly. Places that are programmed doesn't mean that you couldn't call us and say, hey, I want to do it on such and such date. For instance, perfect example, Oakland's 5th grade, I believe it's 5th grade, that's where it ends, right? 5th and 4th.
Does somebody have on noise in the background?
I'm on my front porch, but that might have been a car.
Okay.
Anyway, Oakland School, do they end at 5th grade? Yes. So the 5th grade teachers would call and say, could we use Ridgeville Park on such and such date? And we want to barbecue hot dogs for the kids. Absolutely. I mean, as long as it fits, absolutely. And then we'd say, here's where we want to set up the grill. Here's what time frame do you need? Here's extra garbage cans, things of that nature, recycling bins. And we've done that several years in a row, except last year, because it didn't work because of COVID. So that type of thing happens all the time.
And I also think it's kind of a slippery slope, Martha, to say that we set policy, but people don't have to follow it. Or people, you know, I think we should assume that we have a policy, people who use the park should follow the policy, whatever it is.
Right. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that we as a park district do not, traditionally execute any enforcement. So if we are to set these rules, we don't find ourselves in a position where we run out to the park, like Brian said, and tell people to remove their grill. I'm just trying to talk realistically about the fact that if we encourage people to make a reservation because it's a rule, then people who understand that rule will hopefully do it. That's the behavior that we're hoping to see when we set these rules. And especially once people understand that these rules are what they are, whatever we end up going with, I think it's probably unlikely that people suddenly realize that they can't grill when they otherwise thought that they could, because if anything, there's a claim that the opposite is true, that people think they can't grill, and what we're trying to do is let people know that they can grill, and they always could. What we're hoping
They always could, exactly.
Right. What we're hopefully moving towards, though, is having it be more clear when and where people can grill. So to get back to this policy, we had here written that any functions involving grilling would require reservations, and that also any functions involving 15 or more people would require reservations. So that's kind of an either or, situation. You could have 15 or more who are grilling, that's definitely going to require a reservation. If you're grilling and you don't, it doesn't, the way it's written, no matter what your number of people is, it would require a reservation. So it sounds like maybe we're moving towards a consensus of feeling like the only reservations would be for groups above a certain number. Is that something that people are generally feeling is the case? Matt, I'm seeing a yes.
That's right, 15 or above.
Okay.
Yes, and can I,
yeah, go ahead, Mick.
just off what Natalie said, I think trying a few parks, starting small, I think it's a good idea. I also, it seems to be that Brian and Natalie, one of their major concerns is grilling, and rightfully so, and mine as well, would be grilling when the park is being used for something else. So I think we could easily add to this policy that anytime, I don't know what the wording would be, but anytime there's already a previously scheduled event or a park district event, a city event, anything with 10 or more people, any type of event, grilling is simply just not allowed at that time until they're done, right? Any of the soccer games on the weekends, you can't grill that. And I think that
how are you going to know if you're not asking people to let you know when they're going to grill?
Right. I mean,
because they show up and this policy's, and that's posted. You have that posted where they're allowed to grill in that location, where they're allowed to grill with the picnic table and the coal receptacle. You have that posted.
Right, Mick, but if we say that you can't grill when events are happening, if they show up before the event starts taking place, in theory, and I absolutely agree with what has been said previously, that the likelihood that these kinds of conflicts happen is minimal, because the amount of official events that we have, and then the possible overlap with the amount of grilling that we're going to have, it's going to be very uncommon, period. Then when you look at the amount of times people will show up to grill right before an event happens, but the event hasn't started yet, so they start to grill and they didn't know about the event, it's almost, impossible, but not impossible. And that was the whole basis for why I said, if we just require reservations, people call and they say, I want to grill on such and such date. We are then the ones who know, staff, I should say, who answers the phone. They're the ones who know that an event is scheduled. They can then say, oh, actually not at that park that day. And hopefully if we were to go with Elks and Cayman East, for instance, hopefully they can say not at Elks, but yes at Cayman East, or not at Cayman East, but yes at Elks. Because then the answer isn't necessarily a no. It's just not at that location on that date. So,
I mean, what's the difference in having to have a reservation for 15 people and not having to have a reservation for 4 people grilling?
So how, what if we,
I mean,
if the notification is the concern, right? Which I get, but the consensus is none of us want to keep anybody from grilling, right? there are platforms out there. Look at 311, right? Where somebody could on a Saturday call 311 and say, hey, I want to go grill at X park, right? Or we put on those placards, call this number. Maybe we look into setting up like a text system where Brian or one of the guys gets a notification if somebody gets there and starts grilling. That takes care of the reservations. He's being notified, and that takes care of it not being during business hours. I know there are platforms and things where people could do this online on their smartphone when they show up, and that would take place of that would be their reservation when they do it. We could still, that way you could require reservations because they could show up if nobody else is there. They just do it then and there. The notification is sent. Everybody knows that it's going on. If Brian gets a notification on his phone, somebody's about to start grilling, and it's soccer's going on today, he could say, you know what I mean? He could send him over
I like
and say,
that.
no, you can't grill.
I would be happy with that if there was something that said, if you're going to grill and you don't already have a reservation, call this number.
Yes.
Well, I think it sounds really good. I think we have to be careful what additional work we set Brian up for, or anyone else who's suddenly going to be responsible for responding to text messages on the weekends at any point in time. I don't think it's realistic or fair. But you know what? I mean, if we were to talk to Natalie and say, how many events do we have scheduled for this summer? And in what parks are those events taking place? We could then be really specific about what these days of potential conflict even are. And you know what? There aren't that many if you compare it to the total days in the calendar. And if we are entertaining the notion that we would go to the parks and post, like Mick, you're saying they do with the city, if we were to post a thing that says this is reserved for the Menendez family at this date and time, so there's no other grilling that can happen here today, then in theory, we could also be posting something that said, there's an event here today, no grilling. And otherwise, grilling's always allowed there. Something like that, where it's like the only time that some staff work has to happen is to sit, because again, are there more days that there are events scheduled or more days that there are not events scheduled? There's obviously more days that there are not events taking place on the calendar. So, I mean, again, with the interest being that we want people to be able to grill, we want it to be easy, accessible, more often than not, and make it easy that the times that they can grill. I don't know. I mean,
Martha, I think you're going in a really good direction there. And I also think if you pair that with what Natalie said, where maybe we try parks where there are very few, if we started at parks where there are very not much going on there, right, where we don't have that many events scheduled there, then the number of days where they have to go out and post no grilling today because we got camps or the races are going on, there's very few times they have to do that. Outside of that, I still think that having the opportunity to create a reservation and reserve the spot, I think that would be great for people to be able to do. And then I think we keep reservations for 15 or more people would also be good. Now, the one park where there's a conflict there is at Cayman East, right? Where I know we run a camp out of there, but I do think that would be, I think that's a great spot to have a grill. And Martha, we talked about this, right? Because when you're having grilling and you're having people, you're going to want a bathroom and a little indoor space. That would be a great place for somebody to come and throw a birthday party for their kid and grill some hot dogs for everybody. But that type of a situation requires a reservation because they want to be inside. So you could just tie the grilling in with that, right? Okay, you want to reserve the space. Are you grilling? Yes or no?
Right. I mean, one other thing to consider though, Mick, and I talked to Brian about this after I talked to you, is that partly with the fire department, because of fire safety sort of being a seasonal thing when there's a bunch of leaves and everything's dry.
Yeah.
So it was always the plan that the fire dates were only May 1st to September 30th to begin with. And then if you look at the period from May 1st to September 30th, that is usually, and due to COVID, it was different last year. It's going to be different this year. But normally we see so much camp activity at Ridgeville and even at the Cayman Fieldhouse. My daughter took a cooking class there 2 summers ago. there may not be, even though you and I both like that idea of people being able to rent it and grill at the same time, there may not actually be that many calendar days where that applies, because it would have to be before camps start, but after May 1, and then after camps end, but before September 30th. So there's still like a small window of when that could work. And I mean, if we want to be that specific, we can be, especially because if we're adding, more accessibility, even though it's specific, as opposed to just saying, oh, we're not going to allow grilling there at all. So just something to consider, that the dates are already restricted due to fire
Right.
safety, and then they're further restricted by the fact that the camps use those indoor spaces. So I don't know
Sure,
if that
but-
means that Leiter makes more sense than Cayman East. I still like Cayman East better than Leiter.
I do too. I think there's much less residential surroundings at Cayman East. You only have really 2 residential houses that even butt up next to the park. Whereas at Leiter, there's I don't even know, all along the alley there, right? Those are the backs of houses, so it may not be as much of an issue. But still, to me, it makes more sense to have it at Cayman East, just on the out chance that there's a day where somebody can rent that house and grill and have a party there. I think that could be a really nice event.
So another thought I just wanted to share is that, if we end up liking the idea that parties of a small enough size can just grill whenever they want, but parties of a larger size need reservations, that does set us up, unfortunately, for the possibility that people who think, oh, first come, first serve, I'm just going to show up there right before I grill. When they show up there with their stuff, they might then see that that's already reserved for somebody else. And if we required reservations for everybody, then we just never have a conflict with an event. We never have a conflict of somebody showing up thinking they can grill, but somebody else actually has a reservation. For simplicity, for the staff, and also for setting our community up for having the best experience, we can't be there to help facilitate during the weekends or past office hours. So, that was another sort of starting point for me when I was trying to create policy, is how can we make this easy for staff, easy for the community, and set it up so that there's less chance of unsafe things happening, less chance of conflicts, just schedule conflicts happening. So, I mean, it's 9:15. I don't want to spend too much more time on this. If there's anything specifically egregious that we want to take out and then approve it, that's one option. As we know, it's May 13th. So I'm not wild about the idea of waiting an entire month more to approve this policy, because at least from our draft of policy, these grilling rules were supposed to have been in effect as of May 1st this year. So I'd love to see us approve something here and actually put some policy into place. One thing I wanted to add that we could take out is at the very end, the following additional services are available for additional cost: tables and chairs rental, tent, cleanup. I put these in there just as ideas, Tables and chairs, I think we actually could rent right now if we so chose. But tent, we don't even have a tent available for rent. But I thought, wouldn't that be cool? Because during the parts of the year where there's a possibility of rain, if people are scheduling a big party and they don't want to have to reschedule, being able to rent a tent is cool. But I'm not quite sure we want to approve that part of a policy before we actually have those options ready to go. And then when it comes to cleanup, just to flesh that out fully, if we know about barbecues happening because we require reservations, we are then in the position, and I say we meaning staff, where we can choose to have Ruben or Marcos or somebody working in order to either provide things that they need, if it's tables and chairs, or at a minimum, just take a look at the park after the event and make sure that it's clean. That's another thing beyond safety and potential conflicts with events, is that I don't want functions happening in our parks that we don't know about that then cause a big mess and it sits there all weekend until Monday when a resident calls and says the park's a mess. I mean, again, what's the likelihood they're going to get trashed? It's slim. But if we know about these things, we can provide the level of attention and cleanliness and orderliness in our parks that we want to achieve. And if we don't know when events are happening there, we can't be on top of those things.
Martha, this is Coin.
Yeah.
In answer to your question of what we want to scratch, it sounds like we have at least 3 votes to scratch the mandate under 15. We also have at least 3 votes to scratch the idea of only one barbecue per day, because there might be someone like in the morning or at noon and then in the evening. So that's all.
Yes, and that's also your second thing about the number of barbecues that could happen per day. I mean, that's definitely something we have to consider, because if 2 parties of 30 want to happen at the same time, it seems like a no. But if 2 parties of 2 want to grill at the same time, absolutely, you know, especially because those coal receptacles are only seeing some action at the very end when you're putting your coals in there. And if people have to take turns before, like, of who puts the coals in, you know,
Right.
it's not really an issue. Not for small parties.
Right. Anyone 15 or more has to have
She
a
was.
permit. That's all.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry.
Hey, Mick. Okay, good. He's on mute. Sorry, Dan, can you say that again? I couldn't hear because there was too much noise going on at once.
No, you're concerned about, larger parties like conflicting. Anyone 15 or over, so that's mandated.
There's a little bit of a tech issue going on, Dan. You're like kind of cutting out and then the audio is speeding up, but I think I understood what you said.
He's saying that those 2 large parties wouldn't be an issue because they would be required to have a permit whether or not they're grilling. So we would know that those parties are there already.
Right.
Because
okay,
they're 15 or more.
Thank you, Mick. But of course, that does still require that we strike that part about only 1 party per day, because, you know, you could.
Yeah, which I think I'm okay with. Because lunch and dinner, if you wanted to say 2 simultaneously, right? But 2 at the same day is not good. I do agree with you striking the rental part. And here's the other thing. Well, okay, first of all, I think while it's been long, I think we've had really good positive discussion here about this. And I'm glad to see that we're moving forward with it. Now, if we set these rules tonight, or whatever rules we set tonight, they're not necessarily in stone, correct? We could revisit these next month or in July if we see any problems or any issues moving forward. I think it's important that that we come to a decision here and set some rules so that we can move forward, and we can talk to Brian and we can talk to Natalie and see what's working and what's not, and then we can change them as necessary. It sounds to me now that Brian was in favor of having reservations, and because he wants to know when and where it's happening. So I think I don't see any reason why, after scratching the rental stuff and the other stuff that you spoke about, Martha, we can move forward with this and then change it if needed at a later date.
I have one last question, I think, for Brian. I know you walked around with somebody from the fire department, Brian, to get those initial locations. Did we ever specifically talk to our insurance company about people bringing their own grilling equipment and whether or not they're okay with grilling happening without any oversight from the park district?
The insurance company's okay with grilling in the park. Oversight is up to us. They would just like to know what it is. Simple as that.
So they
And
want to
Brian,
know
this is
that we approve, you mean, when you say what it is?
What's that?
When you say they just want to know what it is, the insurance company, what do you mean by that?
That the board has the guidelines and rules.
Okay.
They'll probably have input on signage and things of that nature, but that's it.
Brian, this is Coin. I just want to clarify. If I heard Mick right, he was suggesting that you also wanted a reservation under 15 mandated. Is that correct? I thought you said under 15 it was okay.
that is, we'd like to know, but I don't think, you know, I don't think that's necessary as much as I used to, but we should post signs in the tot lots that there's no grilling, you know, however that should be phrased. So people know in Riva, Brummel, and the other two tot lots that they can't grill there. And then over 15, we should be getting phone calls and reservations.
Okay, so in terms of
Thank you, Mick. Does that make sense to you? I'm sorry. Sorry, point of order. I had the floor. Mick, does that make sense to you?
Yes,
as far
yes,
as-
it does. Yes, thank you for that clarity. And I would, Dan and Brian, I would move one step further, not only posting saying that there's no in the tot lots, I would say grilling's only allowed in the grilling locations, right where those coals are, because that way
I agree.
Yep. While yes, we say that you can grill at Cayman East, if we do decide to do that, we want you grilling in this location and not on the far east side of the park where there's a house right there. So I would say not only is grilling not allowed on the tot lots, it's only allowed in the locations where we have set up and posted.
Okay, great. Dan, I'm sorry if I spoke over you. There's no visual of you at all, so there was nothing to indicate that you were still speaking. I didn't mean to jump in. I thought you were done.
No, we're
yeah,
cool. It's just I wanted to
visual's
clarify.
always helpful. The visual is helpful because then we know whether you're still speaking. So I was starting to say that if we were to go through here in order in terms of what needs to be changed, if the part where it says reservations are required for, do we want to cross out the part that says any functions involving grilling, and then the only part that remains is on any functions involving 15 or more people?
Yes.
Okay, can you everybody raise their hand if they agree with that?
With what? Say it again.
With removing any functions involving grilling, and so it would only say reservations are required for any functions involving 15 or more people.
I don't agree, but you know that already.
Okay, and so the people who do agree with that change can raise their hands. So I see Matt and Mick, and I see Dan, correct? Is that you, Dan, as well?
Yes, I support that. Yes.
Okay, so that's at least 3 people already for that change. So I think we're gonna go ahead with that. And I just want to make sure that when we come to a vote here, we're all understanding what we're approving. So we're approving it so far, removing the part that says any functions involving grilling. Moving down to the next section. Does anyone have any changes in that part? General information on reservations. Okay, and so moving to the second page,
Second page, can we look at point number 2 of grilling information?
okay, what about it?
2 points. One is it only says Elks and Cayman East, and 2 is with advanced reservations. And so to support it, I would strike with advanced reservations and say grilling is allowed in designated Park District grilling areas.
I think that's fine because that allows for us to change it without having to be super specific.
It allows Brian to have some leeway.
Right. I mean, but as Mick said, we can always make changes to this anytime we need to. And so there's something to be said for it actually being in writing which places are approved. But we can just do the same thing here. Who likes Matt's changes to that second point in grilling information and wants to go with that? That we would say grilling is allowed at designated grilling areas during park hours from date May 1st to September 30th and end there. Who is okay
Coin
with that?
supports it.
Coin Matt.
Supports it.
Okay, we got Coin, got Matt. Debbie, how did you feel about that change? Not okay. Mick, you're okay with that one? Okay, so that's a change that got 3 people for it as well. Any other changes in that second page? Let's just take a minute. Yeah, which one?
I would like to add at the top maybe a sentence saying that grilling reservations are strongly preferred by the park district. Just to get to, right, we're not requiring it, but we could, there's no reason we can't say something like that. And we could also say, so grilling reservations are strongly preferred by the park district. And then maybe another sentence saying that, sorry, a little tired.
Mick, I support you, Mick, on that. I would just add, if we could, in that sentence, because it reduces conflict of park use.
Well,
Right,
right.
and
And
that's
if you go back to the first page, there's a section right at the bottom that says reservations allow the park district to avoid schedule conflicts with larger events, ensure safe use of our parks, maintain clean park facilities. So
Right.
parks and facilities. So Natalie, like, you know, when we're kind of cleaning up the formatting and wording of this, you know, that's a section that it seems like would relate to saying reservations are strongly encouraged. And
Encourage,
then
thank you.
yeah, that could all be merged. You know what I mean? Not only are we encouraging it, but kind of giving an indication why we're encouraging it, and it's for these reasons. And that way, people who agree with that go ahead and make a reservation. But people understand that they don't have to. You know.
I would also think that there would be a way to positively encourage it, saying, hey, if you know, with a reservation, this spot's all yours. It's reserved for, you know, for that time.
I think we should put all this stuff on the website, though. I'm really getting nervous about huge signage in the parks.
The signage won't be huge, and Brian thinks that it's possible that we can put the sign on the coal receptacle itself, so it's not going to be an additional sign. It's not going to be an eyesore, and also on the receptacle itself makes the most sense, because then you can't miss it. It's literally right where the grilling receptacle, you know, the coal receptacle is. We have to figure out the logistics of like how we attach the signs, and also minimizing the language, you know. And again, I bet Natalie would be great at that, sort of like condensing the bigger version of the rules into the something that would go on a sign. And it could say something like, for more information, call this number or go to Ridgeville. And almost everybody's got their smartphone and they can pull up the website, you know. So just something that hints at, you know, there are rules for the use of this.
You could also say grilling reservations are available through the Ridgeville Park District on the sign. So that way you're not saying they're not required, but people might look at it and say, oh, I should get a reservation before I come here.
Yeah.
Right. People are walking through the park. They see that and they say, oh, well, when I'm going to grill next Saturday, I'm going to let them know I'm going to be there.
Yeah, that's great, Mick. I mean, that's a great way to word it, where we are in effect encouraging it, but not even having to say required or not required, that whole thing. So again, just to kind of, for the minutes purposes, and Natalie, so that you have this too, from the very end of the first page, that section about reservations allow the park district to, that probably should tie into the part about reservations being encouraged or something like that, or I don't know, maybe the exact wording of how we make it clear that if you have a reservation, you're helping us do these things, and you're also giving yourself the opportunity to have exclusive use of this space. And although I think we decided it's not going to be exclusive, right? Multiple people can make those reservations. Yeah, what were you going to say now?
A quick logistical question. Can you pass this tonight before I've formatted it for you?
Charlie, can we sort of pass it with the understanding that we'll do an official, I think we've done that before for things where we actually vote twice in order to sort of confirm once the final draft comes to us.
So let me ask you a question. Are you allowing Brian the authority to make changes if things are working or not working before the next board meeting, or does he have to wait for the board to make changes?
That's a good question, and I don't think we've answered it yet. So my stance would be that Brian does have the power to make any changes he sees fit. I mean, he's already helped craft this, so it's not like this is new to him. But you're saying if we see anything in practice, in behavior that, you know, would
my suggestion would be that he's heard all this. There's detailed minutes. Let him start implementing it, and as he's implementing it, he may come back to you and say, you talked about this last time when we started doing it, it doesn't work. This is why.
What about, I've talked to Brian a number of times about considering the very beginning of this as sort of a pilot program and using only the two grilling locations is sort of a version of that. That if this is going great and people are like, we need more grilling locations, maybe that's when we roll out park number 3, maybe park number 4, maybe park number 5. But if we don't see a need for it, we might decide there's absolutely no need to put additional coal receptacles out there. So, I mean, if we, Charlie, is there a way to sort of like have this be, did Charlie drop off the screen?
Charlie is gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he got dropped. So, and Martha, I think the other thing about that is we have time and labor for Ruben and the guys to get these grilling spots set up, right? So in reality, with everything they've got going on right now, they're probably only going to be able to get 2 set up in the next month as it is. So I think we start with those 2, and I would be very much in favor of allowing Brian and Natalie to make changes to this as they see fit, based on safety or whatever else they may find throughout the next month or 2.
Right. And I mean, I don't know if maybe it may, oh, go ahead, Natalie.
Just for the record, just because you were talking about editing it, on that last section of grilling information, is it fine if I strike number 3 and number 4 because they both have to do with reservations?
Sorry, grilling information, you're talking about page 2?
Yeah, I mean, we won't, if we're not asking for people to make reservations under groups under 15, we're not going to know if they're Ridgeville or not Ridgeville. So there's really no way to monitor that.
Well, I think, but if we're only requiring reservations for groups of 15 or more, then I would read that as this grilling reservation info only applies to the groups of 15 or more, in which case, if we want to stick with it being free for Ridgeville residents, it's like when the Ridgeville residents call to make the reservation, they go ahead and do it. They're not charged anything. Anyone calling to make a reservation who's not from Ridgeville, they would then pay the fee.
So I will format it in such a way that bullet point 3 and 4 reflect that those are for groups of 15 or more.
Right. And I think, thank you. And I think that that's especially key for point number 4, as you're calling it, because as we said, smaller groups can absolutely grill at the same location on the same day, even at the exact same time. Larger groups, if somebody 15 or more says I'm making a reservation, that means nobody else grills there at that time.
And then to clarify quickly, we are striking the very last point about additional services.
I think so, because we can always add that when we're ready to offer those services. We don't want to have people calling up and ordering those things from us if they're not ready yet, right?
Okay. Cool, thank you.
Mick, were you going to say
Natalie, Natalie, I think for that number 4, as we are changing that to large parties, I would say that you could probably strike the calendar day part per day and maybe just do like at a time, right? Only one large party grilling at a time.
Got it.
And this seems a bit overkill, but if we wanted to sort of define the amount of time that somebody's reserving, we could say only one reservation per 3 hour, but they're not always going to be times that line up with each other properly. You know what I mean?
Wait and see if it's a problem.
Right. I think so. And sort of deal with it on a case-by-case basis too. You could even ask the party, how long do you think you'll be there? Something like that.
Okay.
I need to make a point here real quick.
Mhm.
There was a discussion 5 minutes ago about possibly me changing on the fly if there was issues in the middle of the month before a board meeting. You've already given me that power in the ordinance you approved, where it says no person shall light or make use of any fire on the Park District property except in such places and such times as designated for such purpose and under such rules as prescribed by the Director of Parks and Recreation or the board. To me, that means if there's a problem in late July and we need to change before the August board meeting, I have the ability and the power to do that.
You should do that. Yeah, you're the
I agree.
director.
Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, that answers that question from 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. And yeah, so I mean, that's the kind of thing where the ordinance just reigns supreme. You know, you already
Common sense need, that's all it would be.
Yeah. I've got a typo here that was probably mine originally. Towards the bottom, please dispose of all trash in recyclables. So it's trash and recyclables in respective containers. I think we've covered all the things that need to be change. Grilling's allowed only in the posted designated grilling area. Grilling areas have a coal receptacle, picnic table, and trash can. Do we want it to say picnic table? Are we definitely putting a picnic table at every grilling location? What do you think about that, Brian?
Well, how many grilling locations are there? Are there two?
Two.
That's easy. Yeah, that's easy.
Okay.
They're already there. They're just a few feet away. Elks and Cayman East, they're already there.
Okay. Do people like the $10 fee for non-Ridgeville residents?
This is for parties of 15 or
$10 is nothing. I think you let us think about that, and I think it should be more.
I agree.
I agree. And I think it's very unlikely that non-Ridgeville residents are even going to be making the reservations. But if they do, I mean, it's, as I've said to a couple of people already, it's like our fee structure for all of our programming already involves a resident price and a non-resident price. Yeah, Natalie?
Can I just quickly point out, there already is a rental fee for the facilities. So if you're putting a receptacle at Cayman East with the expectation that they get the field house, there's already a rental fee for that,
Right.
for the field house.
Not getting the field house just because they made a reservation.
No, I know. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
there will be an additional fee for that space as well.
I would just strike the $10 part then, and you all can set the fee that's necessary, or we can set that next month as well. So just say, for those who live outside of Ridgeville, there is a reservation fee.
That's a great way to do it. Yep. It doesn't have to say what the fee is, because then
Right.
if it goes up yearly, we just update people. as they
Exactly.
ask
And
about
when
it.
they call to make the reservation, they find out what the fee is then.
That's excellent. Okay, so I think we're done making changes. So unless there's any other ideas, issues, discussion, I would ask Julie to roll call the vote of the approval of the reservations and rentals policy.
Ron,
No,
Coin,
This is Coin. Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, thank you all for, I know it's a lengthy discussion, but I think we've just gotta achieve, specificity and consensus, and we did. So that's great. Discuss the update on policies inspired by the IAPD self-assessment. Where are we this month, Matt? Are we talking about that?
No, I'd table that.
Okay. Discuss and approve Reba Park Play Circuit. So, Brian, where are we at with which one? How do you want to do that with us as a board? Oh, Brian, you're on mute. And my other question was also, where did that vote fall from the community, if we have like any numbers on that?
The community vote, which is unscientific, and I don't have exact numbers for you. The community vote was, there's a definite consensus of the fire engine over the traditional play circuit, number one. Number two, there's also quite a few folks very interested in a future nature-based play area. Now, I think we need to pass one of the two play circuits tonight, possibly discuss moving the fence at a later date, and maybe putting a small nature-based play area in Reba. And then in the budget, think about nature-based play area somewhere else in another park.
for next year's budget,
Yes. Which is right around the corner.
right?
Okay, so and you said that was very unscientific and all that, but we still did engage the community a little bit. And where did you said the fire piece was more popular?
Red one, right?
Yes. The red unit, the fire truck, yes.
Okay, great. So we've all looked at pictures of it, and it's just kind of impossible to replace one of those with a nature-based play area because there just wasn't time to put together a proposal that made sense with our budget constraints and all that. Also, there's plenty of other spaces for that to take place so that we're offering all of the above instead of one or the other. So should we I'm gonna make a motion then that we approve the red one because it sounds like that's where we're leaning. Is there a second?
This is Coin. I second that, Martha.
Thanks, Dan. Julie, would you mind? Well, is there any discussion first or any?
It's about putting the red, we're voting to, yeah, okay.
Yes, my motion was to approve the red fire truck themed
Okay,
play equipment for Reba Park.
thanks, I didn't hear.
No, that's fine. So unless there's any issues with that, we're gonna let Julie roll call the vote on that one.
Debbie Brown,
Yes,
Coin,
This is Coin. Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel.
I can't say no to a fire engine, so yes.
Exactly. And Gaines.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. And Brian, that will get ordered and delivered as soon as possible, and maybe if we're lucky, installed this year, or you think that's not possible?
It will get ordered tomorrow. It's 6 to 8 weeks. Highly doubtful it'll be installed by July 1st. In fact, almost impossible. So what's probably going to happen is, and I'll talk to Jerry as more board reports come out on finances, we'll either budget for it or do it as a capital improvement in the next budget. And then therefore could do it in July, August, September, whenever's convenient. But it's going to take
Okay.
6 to 8 weeks for the equipment.
I wonder if there is, a way to have them invoice us and pay it before it's actually installed, or if that's just a big
They will
no-no.
invoice us for the equipment, absolutely. But
No,
installation,
I meant, is it Pinnell Andrews who would be putting it in, or does the,
It
who
would
put-
be Continental Construction.
oh, okay. And are we allowed to pay for the installation of it before it takes place, or no?
Technically, you should not pay for the installation till the installation's done.
yeah.
Okay.
The equipment, yeah, so that
Okay.
would just be pushed. We can do different things like order 6 more park benches in this year's budget instead of next year's to spend that money.
Right. Okay, so you'll work that out with Jerry, how we can,
And then we'll let you know next month. So 6 to 8 weeks from tomorrow is July 1st. I mean, 8 weeks is July 1st. Am I correct? Maybe June 15th and plus 2 more weeks. Yeah, we're into.
Yeah.
okay, well, we'll see when it,
Yeah.
we'll do
There's
it when we do it.
gonna be how to Spend that money if we don't spend it, trust me.
Okay. Moving on, just because it's late here, I want to just be mindful of time. We are moving into new business. The first item is discuss and approve resolution honoring Alderman Ann Rainey, and this is yours, Bron, so I'll turn the floor to you.
It was actually suggested by Pat McCourt, and I agree with it and wanted to bring it up. And so I would like to put a motion out there to enact a resolution by the Ridgeville Park Commissioners honoring Alderman Ann Rainey for her many years of unparalleled dedication and service to the citizens of Evanston, the residents of the Great Eighth Ward, and to the Ridgeville Park District.
This is Coin. I second.
Great, so you've got that exact wording, Debbie, correct? What you read is the
I
resolution or
mean,
whatever
we could change the wording, but basically that's yeah.
okay. Do you mind reading that one more time?
Sure. A motion to enact a resolution by the Ridgeville Park Commissioners honoring Alderman Ann Rainey for her many years of unparalleled dedication and service to the citizens of Evanston, the residents of the Great Eighth Ward, and to the Ridgeville Park District.
Is that
Okay,
written
great.
somewhere?
I'm
What?
sorry?
Is that written down in the packet so I could copy that?
Did everybody get that in their packet? Yeah, okay.
Okay, great.
It should be online too.
It's page 40 of the packet, of the digital packet, Julie.
Hey, Sarah.
Okay, well, if anyone doesn't if there's no discussion on that, we can move to, it's something we vote on, correct, Debbie?
Yeah, it's a motion. and
Okay.
it's Seconded, so,
Okay, great. So I think we can go to Julie unless, feel free to interrupt me, anybody, if you want to say something before Julie roll calls us.
Braun,
yes.
Coin,
This is Coin, yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes.
I'm not really sure where it goes from there. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Brian or Natalie, well, I think Natalie's stepped away for a minute, but Brian,
It's in the
Where-
minute, if you, I don't know, you want us to notify her or?
I would think that would be the,
I mean, I
I-
can send an email.
What if we put what if we put that wording and maybe a picture in one of the program
Oh.
books that went out to all the residents?
oh, I like that.
That
in
would
the,
happen
in the
fall.
brochure?
Just the
And
newsletter.
also, this is Coin, also a media blurb, just so all the,
Yeah, maybe Natalie could do something on Instagram and on the Facebook, and then we could do something in the fall in the book. And I also think we should look into doing something for Pat McCourt in the book in the fall as well.
Yeah.
I agree with all of those suggestions because I think that a resolution like this that isn't publicized is kind of just for us. And if we want the community to hear about it, making it pretty widely known in whatever ways we can and ways that make sense. Perhaps something that has a bit more of a lasting nature than just in the brochure and a social media post. And we can brainstorm on that because we've approved that resolution. We can kind of get specific maybe next month about.
We could have it in the newspaper. We could ask the, well, I don't know which one, but we could ask a newspaper even to, put it in with a picture. And I'd like to see the picture or whatever you do hanging on the wall in Ridgeville. I don't know if anybody objects to that, but.
That's not I just want to make sure I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do. So wall.
And run around the corner 3 times and.
Okay, I can do social media. I'll do the fall brochure. I'll put something on the wall. And then I normally send things to the Evanston Review.
That's perfect.
Okay.
And then you'll send something to her so she knows it's happening.
And request a photo from her.
Natalie, this is Coin. Could you also send it to the roundtable?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Dan, are you talking that fast or is that like a weird technology thing?
Yeah, it's really weird.
No, I'm not talking fast.
Okay. I wish you could hear it because it's very funny.
It is.
It's like the audio is getting condensed and delivered at a higher rate. It's pretty funny. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we're how do you want to leave it then, Debbie? That we're gonna
I think we voted on. I like what Natalie's doing. Does everybody agree? I think it's great.
I think so. I mean, we can I think everything that's been suggested is a good idea. And Natalie, yeah.
Can I ask one quick question? Oh well, it's gonna be in the minutes, right? The exact wording.
Oh yeah, but Brian has it also.
It's page 40 online.
I have the email, but did we change any of the verbiage in there?
I don't think so. Everybody heard it and seemed to agree, right?
Okay, I will make it less motion-y sounding, but I'm going to use the same language. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on then to discuss and approve naming of tot lot in the alley of the 1100 block of Seward Street after former Commissioner Patrick McCourt. And Braun, I'll let you speak on this one as well.
Well, Pat's been a commissioner for 30+ years. He's been totally dedicated to Ridgeville and will continue, I am sure, to be dedicated to Ridgeville. This is a tot lot that happens to be right in back of his house. So whenever he is sitting in his family room, he sees it. And whenever he walks out his back door, it's right there. And so I thought that it would be appropriate to ask the board about naming that tot lot, the McCourt tot lot.
Is that what you moved? Is that a motion?
I guess Natalie, I'm sorry, Dan, Martha just asked me.
Okay, this is Coin. I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a
Coin, I
second.
second that motion.
Okay, sorry, Debbie. What did you just say?
I said then it was a motion. If Dan's gonna second it, it was a
Okay,
motion.
so I just wanted to say, since we're in discussion now with the motion and the second, that I talked to Brian about an idea, which is that we may want to consider asking Pat himself if one of his grandkids might want to pick a name for the park or something like that, because he might not want. No,
Pat will not want this at all. Pat will not want any kudo. Am I right, Matt? Will not want anything. So I think.
well, that's why I had the idea, because I was kind of trying to make it something where.
I think we surprised him,
Okay.
when we, am I right, Natalie? I think it would be nice to.
Debbie, I think what Martha's getting at is let Pat McCourt or his family name the park. It might not be Pat McCourt Tot Lot. It might be.
Colin McCourt, his daughter, is the one who called me and talked about this. And they would like it to be the McCourt Tot Lot so that her cousins can look at it and think it might be his father, Judge McCourt. But Pat would not want Pat McCourt or Pat and Rita McCourt. He would not want that.
Okay, but let me just throw this out there. What if we say, Pat, the board's approved name of the tot lot, McCourt Tot Lot, and he says, oh, please don't do that. Name it something else.
He won't.
Okay.
What he will say is, oh, no, you don't need to do anything like that. Right?
Well, whoever gives him the news of this getting approved could suggest that if he, wants to name it something else, that I just feel like if we know he won't want this and we're mandating that it has to happen, I'm not super comfortable with that, because if you never know if he might like the idea of.
He'll like the idea. I've talked to his daughter, his son, his wife, and everybody is pretty excited about this. What do you think, Matt? You know him.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I would say from personal experience, I have a park in Lincolnwood named after my late grandfather, and we gather there once a year.
Yeah. Well, I also, his kids, Colin and Mike, said that they would be happy to donate a piece of equipment or something. I said, just hold off and we'll, on that, or have an ice cream truck come the day that we name it, and his grandkids and kids in the neighborhood who play in that park can come to it. But we could talk about that.
So just let me give you a heads up. The tot lot that we're talking about already has a brand new swing set.
Right.
By Ridgeville Park District that needs to be installed. Pat's been a part of that since the minute the insurance company said, get rid of the old swing set.
Rusty, yeah.
We know where that's going. We have to pay for installation. And then possibly some form of sign at minimum.
I think it's a really nice gesture for 30 years of service.
Yeah. And then, by the way, the sign will be in next year's budget, so don't sweat it, okay? Unless we have.
Well, we can put up a temporary sign,
Sign
right?
could go on a bench or something, right?
What?
Maybe the sign could go on a bench or something.
Whatever.
There's already a brand new bench in there.
Yeah, we could put a plaque on it.
Yeah.
And what do you think about it? Well, we could talk about that, about having just a little dedication ceremony, right? We would do that.
We'll work all that out.
All right, Natalie, you're in charge. Good job.
Okay, so the motion was again for what specifically?
we'll be standing.
Motion was to name the tot lot in the alley of the 1100 block of Seward Street after Commissioner Patrick McCourt, the McCourt tot lot, for his years of service and dedication to Ridgeville. You can word it any way it's the best to word it, but that's the motion.
Okay, and does it, Mitch, I think at some point you were gonna say something. Did you get, no?
No, it's fine. I just agreed with naming it after him. I think whether or not I think he'll like it enough. And like Matt said, it's about years down the road, it'll still be named after him for his kids and his family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, if we're doing literally just his last name, I mean, that's kind of for the whole family. So.
And Rita, all her years of service. So
Mhm.
if you just call it McCourt, then you've taken care of the whole thing.
Right. Okay, so I think we can roll call the vote on that one.
Braun,
Yes.
Coin,
This is Coin, yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
and Gates.
Yes. Okay, so the last item in new business is discuss process of board engagement with community on new ideas and projects. And this is yours, Braun, so I'll turn
I'm
it
not
over.
sure what that is. What was that, Natalie? Wasn't it just to discuss the previous two things?
You asked me to put that on there just as a conversation about like engaging with the community on new ideas and what the whole process of that looks like.
Oh, right, because of the park thing, yeah. That just to like reiterate about the how do we engage with the community when we want something like a nature park? How do we decide, when that discussion comes up? I think that there was some it seemed to me some misunderstanding about that this was already in the budget and we had to wait till next year. And I just wondered if people needed clarification on that. Wasn't that it, Natalie? I think so. Yeah.
Did you have more to say on that, or?
No, I just wondered if people weren't clear on how that works. It was with you. It actually has to do, Martha, with when you put that out, people come to the meeting, say you want a nature thing. But you and I have talked about it. And I just felt like there was some misunderstanding about at what point in the process can you all of a sudden say, no, let's do this, And I wanted to make sure that Natalie and I had talked about it. Remember, and Natalie, you said maybe people just don't understand what the process is. So you might, I don't know, Natalie, you want to explain the process a little bit, or Brian?
I could try.
It was also, I think, about setting up community expectation. So
Yeah.
not
that
just
was it.
the board understanding and the staff understanding of the process of planning, but also when we're talking to the community and asking for input, and that's for me with social media or anything else, also like how we engage the community and set up expectations for that process as well. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Expectations, exactly.
I think we jumped the gun a little bit, and now it's time to start talking about that. And the community is already, as we know, very interested in a nature-based play space or play area. So like 2 weeks before the board meeting, just try not to unless it's an agenda item, stick to the agenda or bring it up in another agenda item. So the community expectations aren't that it might happen in 2 months. In reality, it's going to happen probably 5, 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah, my concern is that when the great fire engine goes into Reba Park, that people are going to say, wait a minute, we wanted a nature park, but we were told to say support that. What happened? We weren't listened to or whatever. And I think we can avoid that, like you say, by expectations that, yes, we'd love a nature park, but it will not be done in this year's budget. It just can't. So I think that that's what it is, setting the expectations and being clear about it ourselves. That was what it was. No action, just a discussion.
Anybody else have anything to say on that one? All right, so we're moving to call of the commissioners. I think we usually go alphabetically. So Debbie, your turn first.
I just want to say what an incredible job you guys have done during COVID. I hear it all the time from people saying, God, there were classes we could get, our kids could, do a ballet class in front of the screen. And I want you to know that people have appreciated it and commented on it. And it's just been amazing. You've all done a great job. Thank you. Natalie and Brian, I guess I'm talking to.
Mostly Natalie.
And mostly Natalie and Stan Ruben and everybody, it was group effort. It was not easy. And now, I read today, unless I misunderstood, that if you're totally vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask inside or out unless you're in a situation where there's a lot of people and you're going to, like at a concert or something, where you're going to be, I think that's what I read.
We'll see how Illinois Association of Park Districts comments on that. And
right.
Because it's not totally phase 5.
Right.
We're in the bridge.
State of Illinois.
That was the CDC. Then we got to see what happens in each state.
Correct.
I mean, Florida,
Sorry to bring everybody back, but we are in call of the commissioners. So I think we're moving on to Commissioner Coyne.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Coyne. Just heartfelt condolences to our community members who are still suffering from the effects of COVID, both health and economically. At District 65, I'm aware of families and children and sensitive with COVID. I'm also familiar with some of our own members in our community who are passing away because of COVID. So just a heartfelt shout out to all those families who are still suffering, and just so I hope they know they're not alone. There's a lot of neighbors that care.
Thanks, Dan. That would be me then. I just want to welcome Mick again. This is his first meeting joining us as a commissioner, and I just want to thank you so much for answering the call of, serving the community in this way, and being here when you have a 1-day-old baby. Yeah, it's impressive commitment right out of the gate. So thank you so much for joining us, Mick. And alphabetically, that would be Matt next. That's our new, So Matt, do you have anything for Call of the Commissioners?
Just quickly, yes, thank you, Mick. I look forward to working with you. And thank you to Natalie and Brian for the Earth Day event. It was great. My family was out, really enjoyed it. Saw a lot of neighbors. It was really, really a great event, and I hope we do it again next year.
Okay, and that brings us to you, Mick. Call of the Commissioners is, as I'm sure you can tell, just a chance to say pretty much anything that you want to say publicly about the community or about somebody or really anything.
Thanks for welcoming me. Looking forward to getting a lot of work done and doing good things for the community. And now I'm going to go and spend some time with Ridgeville's youngest resident.
Okay, so we would have another citizen comment section at the end as usual if there were any comments, and I just don't think that we have any. Natalie, correct me if I'm wrong. No. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a
This is Coyne. Oh, go ahead.
To adjourn. Coyne
So
can
Debbie made the motion.
This is Coin. I second.
Great, thanks, Dan. And Julie, you can roll call us, please.
Braun,
Yes.
Coin,
This is Coin. Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.